From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mix Sports Network. Here on this Friday, it is the 12th day of August 2016. Of course, you have the Olympics today, you had the Jets preseason win last night, you have the Giants preseason first week this evening, but as we get into the day, all eyes and all focus will be on the Bronx as Alex play his final game as a Major League Baseball player this evening. Expected to be batting third in the lineup tonight for the Yankees. He will DH after Girardi denied him to play third base, which once again, you're trying to win games. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not. It doesn't matter who's retiring. I understand that you are a big name player and have been over the course of your entire career, but this is a Yankee team that after the win last night, coming from behind in the eighth inning, which Rod was fortunately for him at least was a part of, that comeback in the bottom of in the top of the eighth inning last night, after it looked as though Boston had it on lockdown, it's definitely you're still trying to win. You're still in a wild card hunt, and now I am sure that if the Yankees were either in a position that Boston's in right now, sitting at 9 games over 500, and pretty solidly in one of the two wild card spots, or if they were in a spot that, say, Atlanta or Minnesota were in, that they had no hope or prayer of even touching October baseball other than the final games of the season, that it would be different, and that Alex Rodriguez would have not only played Tuesday and Wednesday, but he would have gotten the opportunity to play third base. But even though they're only 2 games over 500, they're still 4.5, 5 games out of the wild card spot as we speak today. You're still trying to win these games. You're still trying to win. Every game is still very important as we get down to the end. As we get down to the end of this season, and in A-Rod's case, the end of his career. A lot of speculation has been brought up about, will he actually retire? And to be perfectly honest, I don't think he has a choice. If he retires tonight, he will have honored his word and he'll do as he said he was going to. Yankees are 3.5 actually out of the wild card right now. Will have done as he said he was going to and honor his word. But then, if he doesn't, the Yankees are going to. You got to have a feeling the Yankees are going to cut him anyway. Whether or not Alex Rodriguez decides, and there's a lot of rumors that he's going to end up going to Miami. Whether or not, I'm going to say it right now, whether or not Alex Rodriguez decides to retire after tonight's game or not, he will play his last game in pinstripes this evening. Whether he decides to retire or whether he decides to go to Miami or not, he is going to play his last game as a New York Yankee this evening. Because I think even after everything that has gone on, if he decides to do this, if he decides to do this, and by doing this, meaning going against his word, the Yankees, I think, at that point won't mind eating the money. Because from where they sit, they made a deal, and to me, it's a no-brainer. And again, whether or not he retires this evening, as he said he was going to, he's batting third in the lineup this evening. If he retires after tonight, the way he said he was going to, or if he decides to double back on his word, tonight will be the last time he plays a Major League Baseball game in a New York Yankee uniform, without a doubt. Because you can see this youth movement continue to move, and it's leaving Rodriguez behind. I think the only reason why Teixeira's still in the lineup, even though he's batting $190 something, is because of the injury to Greg Bird. And the fact that they really don't have another first baseman. They tried Austin Romney out there last night. Worked out well for him. Hit a home run in the 8th inning. But the Yankees are going young. Sanchez is hitting at the major leagues. Romney is hitting. You got to find a way to get these lineup. You got to find a way to get these bats in the lineup. Notice how they have almost all but completely phased out Brian McCann. And when I read you the lineups every weekday, I'm surprised as to how often McCann is not in the lineup. Then you look at a guy like Michael Pineda, who last night innings allowed 8 hits, a lot of hits allowed, but he only allows 2 runs. I would say the hits were a lot. The hits are definitely a lot, but I would give that a solid performance last night out of Michael Pineda. If he allows 8 hits, 2 runs over 6 innings, you know what? You'd take that every 5th day, or almost every 5th day. You flip that over, Rodriguez, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. That's a performance that you will hang your hat on and say, you know what? Yeah, I did my job this evening. And then the Yankees got into the bullpen. They got into Ziegler, and 4 hits, 3 runs off of Ziegler in an inning. And that is where the Yankees won the game last night, was going into that Boston bullpen and hitting that bullpen. And hitting it hard. Barnes struck out the side in the top of the 9th, which, after that 8th inning, you'll accept that. Betances allowed a hit and walked 1, but he did strike out the 3 guys to get the 3 outs. So all in all, a solid game last night for the Yankees. Now they go and play the Tampa Bay Rays this afternoon, who come into this game now 19 games under 500 in 5th place. So the Yankees, of course, have no pressure from behind from Tampa, but this is a team, again, 3.5 games out of the wild card spot, out of one of the playoff spots in the wild card. This is the perfect series coming up right now to close that gap even more down to Boston and Toronto. This is the perfect time to do it. Especially now that Detroit is sort of waning off. Houston's in their little thing right now. They got what they got going on. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Seattle is on a 6-game winning streak. They right now are the most dangerous team, and like I said, Detroit falling off. They're on a 4-game losing streak at the moment. And the Yankees did themselves a huge favor by beating Boston in this series. They will face Chris Archer this evening for the Tampa Bay Rays. Archer 6-15 with a 4.26 ERA and 168 strikeouts. Against Minnesota on Saturday, got a win. For Archer, he's going up against CC Sabathia, 6-9 with a 4.18 ERA and 91 strikeouts. So a big matchup evening for the Yankees, and really it's all going to revolve, as pretty much everything has today in New York, is going to revolve around Alex Rodriguez. Lineups for the game this evening. For the Tampa Bay Rays, it'll be Logan Forsythe. At second, Matt Duffy, Evan Longoria, Brad Miller, Mickey Matuk, Corey Dickerson, Steven Souza, Tim Beckham, and Bobby Wilson ahead of Chris Archer. Then for the Yankees, it'll be Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, Brian McCann, Didi Gregorius, Starlin Castro, Chase Headley, and Aaron Hicks ahead of CC Sabathia. The game has been flexed. It will go to Fox this evening, and if you do not have a TV available to you, it will be free on MLB.TV this evening. For the New York Mets, they will start a 3-game weekend series against the San Diego Padres after getting their brains beaten in against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Logan Verrett going tonight for the Mets against Paul Clemens for San Diego. And to be honest, I think tonight is going to set the tone for the rest of the season for the Mets. This series will set the tone for the remainder of the year. If the Mets lose this series, I think you're going to start seeing attendance at Citi Field this year decline for the rest of the year, and television ratings will definitely decline. Logan Verrett now has that fifth spot in the rotation in grave danger, with Jonathan Neese, who has done nothing to give up big hits at the bullpen, and Zach Wheeler, who actually just saw Dr. James Andrews today about continued discomfort in that elbow, still coming off of Tommy John surgery. The kid only threw an inning the other night. So you're looking at Zach Wheeler missing this season, last season, and now the entirety of this season. And if he still has elbow discomfort, you got to think, how much of 2017 is he going to miss? And that the Mets now may have missed the boat on Lucroy. Because Zach Wheeler is still a great unknown as far as pitching in the major leagues go. And now that he's having another elbow problem after just one inning and a rehab start, that's a big problem. So again, it's Logan Verrett tonight for the Mets, 3-7 with a 4.66 ERA and 55 strikeouts, going up against Paul Clemens, who's a righty, 1-2 with a 4.61 ERA and 21 strikeouts. Clemens coming off a bad outing. Yanked from his last outing after not hustling on a failed bunt attempt. He has been relatively solid in his 3 starts for San Diego, thanks in part to his increased curveball use, but remains in search of his first win. So he has not won a game with San Diego yet, and just got pulled from his last game for being a fool. For the San Diego Padres, their lineup will see Travis Jankowski, Will Myers, Yangrivas Solarte, Alex Dickerson in left, Ryan Schempf at second base, Jabari Blash in right, Christian Bethencourt catching, Nick Noonan at short, and Paul Clemens. Of seeing this team on a nightly basis, again, of course, the big guy you got to watch out for is Will Myers. Solarte has been hitting well, batting 292. Schempf is a power guy, nothing much else. So if you groove a pitch to him, he definitely will hit it. Jabari Blash has shown that he's been hitting for power since he's come up. Christian Bethencourt, dangerous gap hitter. Only batting 250, but he's got 5 home runs, 21 RBIs. You saw it, I believe, in the Sunday game against the Mets earlier in May. He took Matt Harvey deep, I believe, in that matchup. So it may not be the best San Diego Padres, but a group of individuals in that lineup, especially since Travis Jankowski with 25 stolen bases and Will Myers with 21. And that definitely scares you coming off a series where the Arizona Diamondbacks just stole 13 bases on Travis d'Arnaud. For the Mets, it'll be Curtis Granderson. TJ Rivera gets the start tonight at third. Neil Walker, Jay Bruce, James Loney, Travis d'Arnaud, Alejandro De Aza in center, and Matt Reynolds at short, ahead of Logan Verrett. So that will be the lineup tonight for the New York Mets. We will go to the NFL with the first preseason game for the New York Jets when we return back after this. Don't go away. You're listening to Frank Fired Up on the Mixed Up Sports Network. All right, we're back. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Mixed Up Sports Live coming up in about a half hour. For those of you watching the Olympics, now we will get to the medal count and today's schedule a little bit later. But if you're watching on, just to give you what's going on live right now, on NBC, you're watching the last 100 meters of the 1500 meter freestyle heat. Your next up would be on Bravo, one of the NBC's sister channels. You have women's tennis going through NBCSN, currently showing women's beach volleyball, and CNBC showing some form of showing a bunch of horses trotting in an open plain. Not sure what that point is, but we will go now to the New York Jets and the NFL preseason, which began last night. We'll get to the rest of the scores in the next segment. But for the New York Jets, last night I think you saw a couple of things that worried you. The fact that Bryce Petty looked a lot better than Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith did go 8 for 14, 7 yards and a touchdown. Bryce Petty went 7 for 14 with 93 yards. Could have had 2 touchdowns. One of them was caught out of bounds. The second one was deflected on the goal line. Just if you were watching between Petty and Smith, Petty's passes were a lot better. His decisions appeared to be a bit more educated than Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith, the couple passes in the second quarter were very nice. His touchdown pass was a perfectly placed pass to Peak in the front corner of the end zone on the back shoulder. Petty, for me though, Bryce Petty did play a lot better than Geno Smith. As I said, the decisions he made seemed a lot more educated. He did have a bunch of dropped passes. Last night, I think he had maybe 3 or 4 dropped passes, which kept him from going. I think it would have been around 10 and 14 last night. To be honest, and there was no Christian Hackenberg sighting. I think next week against the Redskins, you'll probably see Fitzpatrick out there for a drive or two, because if you watch that first drive for the New York Jets last night, that was pitiful. That first drive. That second drive with the 2 passes to Inoue, for a guy who was on the practice squad last year, 22 catches for 325 yards. He made 2 catches last night for 69 yards. His longest one was 43, and that was a lob pass up the middle. If Inoue is going to continue to make plays like that, Inoue is going to be a big time player for the New York Jets this season. And just the sheer amount of depth at wide receiver that the Jets have. Ross looked very good last night. 3 catches and 51 yards. Peak had the touchdown catch, 4 catches for 45. He led the team in catches. But look at all of these players that actually caught a pass. Inoue, Ross, Peak, Morris, Worthy, both Marshalls, Hauser, Anderson, Bostic, and Sudfeld. All of those players caught a for the Jets last night. That is a lot of people. The one thing bothered me the most about the New York Jets last night was their inability to stop the run. Ivory ran all over his former team. 6 attempts, 26 yards. Yeldon, 4 attempts at 26 yards. Robinson, 7 attempts at 23. Jacksonville ran all over the Jets. Then you look even worse was the Jets' ability to cover passers on the ends. D. Milner got torched by Robinson twice, beaten later in the game, I believe by Lee. If you are looking for a guy like D. Milner to be a major player for the Jets as maybe a slot corner, last night is not what you wanted to see by any stretch of the imagination. Robinson, 3 catches for 80 yards last night. Jacksonville destroyed the Jets in time of possession. I think at one point Jacksonville had the ball for like 22 minutes and the Jets only had it for 8. And then after, like towards the end of Geno Smith, and Geno Smith got better in the second half than he was in the first. But especially during the entire time Bryce Petty was under center, the Jets started to hold on to the ball a lot. They looked very balanced. I think Geno Smith's last drive, they looked very, very balanced. They ran 9 plays, I think 4 running, 5 passing. And another thing you saw, a very, very disciplined Jets team last night. A very disciplined Jets team last night. I think they only had maybe 2 or 3 penalties all last night. Compare that to Jacksonville, who had about 16. The problem for both teams last night was third down. Both teams combined went 3 for 23 on third down. Jacksonville went 1 for 11. The Jets went 2 for 12. That really has to change. As I said, that defense for the New York Jets, if that is any sign of this season to come, whether it's watching Ivory run right down the middle of the Jets' first team defense and run through the second team defense like they weren't even there, or to watch the Jets get burned on the corners, burned on the sidelines, those things have to change. And it's not like they were getting burned on the sidelines, guys that they were planning to cut. No, they were getting burnt by D. Milner was getting burnt. This guy who was a first round draft. Burnt twice by Robinson, and burnt once by Lee. And when I say burnt, I mean torched. That pass up the middle on the defensive offside call, the deep bomb that Bortles threw to Robinson. You have to have a hand up and in between Robinson's hands there. You can't play that off to the side and play the receiver. On a jump ball like that, when it's just you and the receiver down the middle of the field, you have to hit ball there. And that was something D. Milner did not do on that play. He played him off to the side. He played the receiver and not the ball. You have to play the ball in that spot. One-on-one down the middle of the field, you can't get much easier than that. All in all, the Jets do come away with the win. Should have been at least 23-13. The Jets did miss 2 field goals. Their rookie kicker made 1 out of 3. Maybe you give him a pass for first game jitters, but after you make the first 23-yard chip shot, then you botch one. I believe it was from 53, so that's understandable. You botch one from 53, and then you botch another one from shorter. That's a problem. Especially when Nick Folk made only 2 extra points. But one place where the Jets definitely impressed last night was special teams, both offensively and defensively. Grant for Jacksonville had 1 return for 23 yards, and the Jets only gave up 4 yards total on punt returns. The Jets only got 4 yards on punt returns. But on the 2 kickoff returns, Marshall ran for 84 yards and Ross ran for 51. And a 51-yard one was to open up the game. Jets only gave up 27 yards on special teams. Compare that to Jacksonville, who gave up 139 on 5 kicks, 2 kickoffs and 3 punts. Jets only had 3 recorded kicks, 1 kickoff and 2 punts. So you get the win. You play Washington next Friday. A very solid game for the Jets. Again, the defense is something you want to look over.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Mix Up Sports Live on this Friday, August 12th. We got a lot of news for you today, but first let me introduce the boys. They'll be joining along with me. To my right, Nick Sexton. To my left, Frank Marchese. Boys, how you guys doing today?
I'm great.
Doing good.
And we're going to start in the Olympics because, let's face it, that's where all this stuff has pretty much happened today. And I want to start off with the game that just ended not too long ago in penalties. The U.S. women's national team for soccer put up against the Sweden international team. Ended up going to penalties and did not go the way of the United States team. Personally, for me, they were down early, but Alex Morgan brought them back to tie it and just could not capitalize on the penalties. And, this is not the first time it's happened. This happened, was it 2010's World Cup against Japan? But it happens a lot with the U.S. team, but, they can bounce back from it. It's not going to, it's the Olympics. Granted, it's just this one match, but I feel like they can bounce back easily from it in further tournaments.
I mean, this game that between the U.S. and Sweden, it was a heartbreaking game for the supporters for U.S., including pretty much obviously anyone from America, and anyone who's watching the game with the U.S. having 27 shots and dominating possessions. Sweden scoring on one of its two shots on goal and then winning in penalties, which I mean, it's just they beat them on penalties 4-3, which that's just heartbreaking that the USA was just dominating this game the entire way through and just gave up a goal on a counterattack and that really cost them. They were coming in as one of the favorites to take home the gold in women's soccer, and unfortunately they got knocked out here in the quarterfinals. So we're gonna have to wait till the next tournament to see how they perform. But it's a tough loss for this whole team.
I mean, of course, it's upsetting to see the U.S. lose here in this tournament. And I mean, they just actually showed it on NBC right now. I mean, Hope Solo just guessed the wrong way on that last penalty. But another thing you got to remember here: this is not a. You're right. This is one of the favorites, but you got to think this team is also coming off a Women's World Cup win. So I mean, it's not like they're a big name team with a lot of potential that hasn't done anything. They just won the World Cup last year, so was it last year or earlier this year?
Last year.
Yeah, so they just won the World Cup last year. So it's while this is disappointing, you could still hang your hat on that.
Yeah, and actually, correction. I meant to say it was earlier this year, like January, February ish.
There you go.
So my apologies, but and the funny thing is too that they were the favorites. The odds for the women's national soccer team to win the Olympic gold was 6-5, while Sweden's was 12-1. So that puts you in perspective the amount of power that this team has gone in. But I'm gonna go on a short, tiny rant real quick about Hope Solo, the goalkeeper for United States. She came out after the game and said, "I thought we played a courageous game. I thought we had many opportunities on goal. I think we showed a lot of heart. We came back from a goal down. I'm very proud of this team, and also think we played a bunch of cowards. The best team did not win today. I strongly, firmly believe that." Now, I'm all okay with essentially being strong-hearted and having that passion for your team and the way you play. I don't get mad at that. What I get mad is that the team that was the underdog essentially in this game come out and beat you guys instead of you go understanding what went wrong. And yes, it's a hard fought win. You go and insult the team by calling them a bunch of cowards. I'm sorry, but that's not